All right, I think we're live. Hopefully, we don't have the same technical challenges we had last week. It's good to be with you guys. I'm Coach Travis Robertson, and welcome to the High Performance Agent live show. This is a special show we do just for you guys, members of this group, to really support you in growing and scaling up your business. So if you are watching live right now, do me a favor, drop a little hi in the chat. Tell us where you're watching from as we're letting people get logged on here. We'd love to know where are you at, what market are you in, or if you're sitting someplace cool, sipping a drink because you're on vacation and you're watching like Cabo, cool, pop that in the chat as well. It's always fun to know where you guys are watching from. And if you're watching live, do me a favor, put a hashtag live in the comments. That lets me know you're seeing it live. And then if you're watching the replay, do me a favor there, put hashtag replay in there just so I can kind of get a sense of who's able to watch it live, who's watching the replays. Gives me some context, and I respond to as many of those comments as I possibly can. I'm seeing Dallas, Texas. Awesome. Great to see you here. By the way, we're testing with StreamYard. So it's a streaming platform because last week we had issues with Zoom. So as it stands, I cannot see who you are, just as Facebook user. So I think there's a way you can like authorize StreamYard to use your name and your face so I can actually see who it is. So if you have that chance, go ahead and do that. Great. We're at Columbus, Ohio as well. Great to see you guys. So let's do this. Today, we are going to be talking about really overcoming call reluctance. And so it's a really powerful training. I'm very excited about this. And if you've ever struggled with it, even mildly, it's cost you thousands of dollars. And if you've struggled with it in a pretty big way, I promise you this, it's cost you tens of thousands of dollars every single year, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year in lost commissions. And so my hope here is that when we leave today, you're going to leave with a better understanding of why it's showing up, a better understanding of what to actually do to overcome it. And then at the very end, I'm actually going to give you kind of a script, a process that you can use when reaching out to your sphere of influence, because there's a lot of different scripts we teach our clients for every scenario under the sun in terms of who they're calling, the scenarios, all of that. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it really practical. At the very end, I'm going to show you how you can change the way that you're reaching out to, let's say, your sphere of influence. Have much more authentic conversations that just feel better. And so I'm going to show you that. I'm going to give you that at the very end here. So hang tight. We're going to get there. But also this, guys, the message is powerful, and I want people to see this. And so the more active you can be in the comments, what that does, if you like, if you comment, if you react, that helps the algorithms within Facebook, and it helps get the message out. And my goal, my team's goal, we want to transform lives. We want to transform businesses, and that ultimately transforms families. So if you could do me a favor, when you have an aha moment, when something hits or I say something, just devastatingly brilliant, punch it into the chat or give it a thumbs up or comment yes down below, whatever it is, anything like that you can do helps the algorithm and ultimately gets the message out and changes more lives, impacts more people. So it's a way of helping me as a thank you for this if you find it valuable. Now, one other thing I want to do is let you know that if you're typing your takeaways down below, that does a couple of things. Number one, if there's a key takeaway for you, it anchors it for you. So it helps your brain process it and remember. You remember it more if you write it out or tap it down. And then later on, you can come back and review it and go, oh yeah, that was my takeaway from the time here today. Another thing it does is it actually allows other people to learn from your takeaways, because we all hear things differently. So this gives them the chance to learn from you, and also you a chance to learn from them, because they may hear something you didn't hear and you're like, oh crap, that's a great idea. That's a great insight. And now you get to add that to your learnings as well. So if you're ready to overcome call avoidance, call reluctance, whatever you want to call it, do me a favor, type a 1 into the chat and let's dive in, because we've got a boatload to get here to today. So just bunch a 1 into the chat and let's rock and roll. Now, here's the thing. This is coming up because my team and I, we talk to agents all the time who tell us that they struggle with call reluctance or call avoidance. And I think right now it may even be coming up more than ever because as the market has been contracting, we've moved from an order taker market where business just called you. And, we were talking about this, we did a coaches panel today with some of our higher end clients. And what we were talking about one of our coaches, Jason, what he said is he said, the last few years in this market, it hasn't been so much a skill set driven market as much as it's been an availability driven market. Is if you were available, you could make money in the market over the last few years, but things have shifted. And we've moved from that order taker market to a sales maker market. And so what's happening now is there's more pressure that agents are feeling to do some of the activities of real estate. But what's happening is they're getting to the phones and they're getting to the conversations and they're freezing. And so it's been really interesting because maybe you've been there too. And you should make the calls. You need to talk to your sphere. You need to follow up with the leads. And you have every intention to, right? It's like, this is the day. This is the day. I'm going to make the calls. I'm going to do the work. And you grab the phone and all of a sudden you freeze. And then all those questions start kind of rattling around in your head. Like, what if they think what if they think I'm annoying them? What if I'm bothering them? What if I'm interrupting them? I mean, what should I even say? What if they hang up on me? What if they yell at me? What if they tell me to go do things to myself that are actually like physically impossible? Like I can't really go do that to myself, but they tell me to go do it. And all of a sudden you just have all these thoughts that start rattling around in your head and it just locks you up. And so you put the phone down and maybe you kind of, as a lot of people like to say, they go, well, I hide behind text messages or I hide behind emails. So you send some text messages, maybe you send out some emails knowing full well that the impact isn't going to be the same. But deep down, you just feel like I got to do something. I got to feel like I did something. So I guess something's better than nothing. So you send the text, you send the email, you go on, but deep down, you know that you're leaving tens of thousands of dollars in lost commissions on the table. And then you tell yourself this lie. You know what? I'm just not good on the phone. I'm not a smile and dialer. I'm more the face-to-face type of person. I'm more relational and so that's just not my strength. That's not my skill set. And you kind of you tell yourself that because you're trying to make yourself feel better about the fact that once again you grabbed the phone and then you froze. Now, what's really interesting is that when we talk with people, and maybe, by the way, if you've ever felt this before, even on a little level, maybe for some of you, you're like, I don't mind calling my sphere, but I struggle when it's calling my leads. If you've ever struggled with this, do me a favor, just honestly punch a yes into the chat. There's no judgment. There's no shame. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to call you out because it's normal. And I think it's important for people to understand that it's extremely normal in this industry. And I'm going to talk about why. Because oftentimes one of the things our clients say before joining the program is that they would also find themselves in that place where they're stuck with phone avoidance, call reluctance. They would freeze up. And that was causing them to feel like, and ultimately they would experience this inconsistency, this unpredictability in their business and their income. If something fell in their lap, great. But if not, they felt paralyzed and they felt like they were at the mercy of others reaching out to them rather than them feeling like they could start to control the business and their income and their destiny and their future. And it also messed with their confidence because they felt like they were failing at something. They kept being told, like, you need to make more calls. You need to just make more calls. And it's like, well, that's fine. Yeah, I can agree that maybe I should do that. But ultimately what would end up happening is I just felt like I failed again. Felt like I'm not living up to some expectation that I have on me, that other people have on me. And they just felt like they were stuck in this failing loop. And some of them also wondered, honestly, if they could truly ever get to the income levels they wanted, if that's not who they believe themselves to really be. So maybe you can relate to this. I'm seeing a bunch of yeses pop in. So here's the deal. Whatever it is, if you found yourself in that position where you're staring at the phone and then avoiding making those calls that deep down you know you need to make, then you're in the right spot, because I'm going to show you today how to truly overcome this once and for all. And I'm going to give you everything you need. So if you're ready to kick call reluctance in the groin, I was going to say something a little different, but if you're ready to just like kick it in the groin once and for all, and really ready to start earning that income that you want to earn and have more fun in this business. Because let's be honest, is it more fun when you're making money? If you're ready to do that, type a yes into the chat and then buckle up, grab a notepad, grab a sheet of paper, because I'm going to walk you through this. So like I mentioned before, my team and I encounter call reluctance and call avoidance a lot. And in fact, it's far more common than you're actually being led to believe. See, the problem is that very few agents will actually openly, honestly talk about it publicly because of the shaming that actually takes place around this topic. And it's sick, in my opinion. And it's really interesting. I went into some popular Facebook groups, and I was just like, let's just see where call reluctance, call avoidance comes up. So I searched for call reluctance, call avoidance, things like that. And people were honestly in there asking like, man, I'm struggling with this. And I jotted down some of the responses, some of the really helpful, awesome responses from keyboard warriors and keyboard commentators and keyboard experts. And this is just some of what the wizards of smart and awesome would share with people. They said, you just need to make more calls. Thank you for that, because that's what they're asking for. They know that. So, and it was all caps, like, you just need to make more calls, as if they're like, oh, you're right, that fixed everything. Thanks so much for your genius advice. I appreciate that. Here's another one. Just stop whining about it and make the calls. Again, extremely helpful. Then Nike actually showed up on one of the posts, and Nike commented, just do it. Because again, thank you. And then it started to get personal. You are in the wrong business. Move on. Too bad you haven't been in touch all along, crying face. Give me the number. I will call them. In fact, I probably have sold a few of their homes. And then 4 laughing, rolling on the floor emojis. Boy, you need to call them before another realtor does. And then there's the person who loves to jump in and tell everybody how many calls he or she makes. I make 300 dials a day, and I've been doing that for 25 years now. Cool. At no point did anybody like jump in and go, hey, here's some things to help. Been there, done that. I understand. It's normal. It's okay. It's just shaming. And it's crazy, because the truth is that most of those keyboard commenters, they struggle with it too, or they've struggled with it at some point, and they just get on their high horse and make everybody feel like an idiot and shame everybody, when the truth is, at some point, everybody who's been in sales has struggled with it. Everybody who's been in sales has struggled with it. So before I can help you understand what you need to do, I want to help you understand why it's happening. Because if you don't understand what's happening, the solution doesn't make sense. So we're going to get to the solution. I'm going to walk you through it, but I want to give you 5 of the reasons that call reluctance shows up. There's more, but I'm going to give you 5 of the more common reasons that call reluctance, call avoidance may be showing up for you in different scenarios. Now, I do want to also make something clear, is that there's a spectrum of this, is that some people, they struggle actually calling their friends and family, their sphere of influence. Other people struggle with calling their past clients. Other people struggle with calling leads that they get through lead platforms that they're working with. Others struggle with, straight up cold calling. And I'm not saying that any strategy is necessarily better or worse than anything else, but it's that there can be a spectrum. And I've met people who are like, I can cold call all day long, but calling my sphere, That's weird to me. Other people are like, I can call my sphere, but I've kind of been ignoring my past clients, and now it feels weird to reach out. So it can show up. It's not like, oh, if I don't struggle with cold calling, then I can call anybody. It's actually not the same. It can show up in different areas for different people. So I do want to make that clear. Now, here's 5 reasons why we see this happen. Number 1, bad scripting, bad scripts. And what ends up happening is the scripts are just terrible. And most of the scripts that are out there, guys, like just an honest truth, they're all regurgitated from, I won't say who, but they all flow back to basically the same 1 or 2 people that built these scripts back in the 80s and the 90s. And they were designed and developed in a world where the consumer didn't have access to as many real estate agents or salespeople as they do today. So today, social media has connected all of your friends and family with like 15 other real estate agents. And so most of the scripts that people are regurgitating and using and just kind of tweaking up a little bit, they all follow the same format. They all follow the same thing, but they all assume that you're like the only real estate agent in somebody's life and that you can get away with crap that is just abusive to a relationship. And they're inauthentic, they're weird, they're old school, they feel a little sleazy, a little slimy. And so you're like, okay, I need to make the calls. And then your broker or somebody, or maybe an old coach or whoever it was, handed you, or you went to a training seminar and they're like, use this script, and you have this thing and you're like, that's what I'm supposed to say? And the scripts suck. Like, have you ever, like, do you know the scripts I'm talking about, guys? If you do, just type a yes into the chat, or like, oh my gosh, like, been there, scripts suck. Like, I've seen them, they're terrible, and they're just bad. They're old school. And you're like, do people really say these things? Like, and then the problem is everybody's saying the exact same thing. And you're like, so what's really the difference between me and everybody else? And maybe you've tried some of these scripts before. How many of you have actually tried these scripts before and you used it? You made the call that you were going to make, and they're like, yeah, let's take FSBOs, for example, or an expired listing. And the listing goes, it expires, you make the call. And how many times have you heard this? You're like the 13th realtor call me today and say the exact same thing. You ever heard that before if you made those calls? The reason is all major trainers, all major people are all regurgitating the same freaking thing that everybody else was saying before them, because they're like, why? My coach, like, they went to a coach, they got the script from a coach, turned around, started their own coaching company. Like, here's the script, rewrote it a little bit, put their label on it, and just turned around and like, it's just been regurgitated over and over and over again. But it's never gotten better. It's just gotten more inauthentic as the world and as the consumer has shifted. The second reason that we see that people end up with call avoidance, call reluctance, is maybe the script isn't terrible, but there are bad strategies within the script. And those strategies end up working against you. So let me give you an example of this. Yeah, I don't know who said this, but yeah, just checking in. What are you, their doctor? Like, is this a wellness check? Did you stumble down? Like, just checking, making sure you didn't fall down the stairs and that you're still okay, good. It's just bad. So here's the other thing that we see is bad strategies within the script. So one of my least favorite in the world is what I call the referral bomb. The referral bomb. And it's like the conversation's going well, and it's like, hey, just start to have this really great conversation. And maybe you've heard it: Ford, family, occupation, recreation. And then what's the P or the D? I'm blanking on what the D is, but it's like this acronym. It's like the Ford mayor campaign or whatever it is. And it's like, ask about their family, ask about their occupation, ask about their recreation, ask about whatever the D is. I can't remember, but everybody's doing the same dreams. Thank you very much. Like, what are your dreams and goals? I mean, really, like, it's weird, number one. But then then it's like, oh, by the way, don't forget to send me your referrals. Click buy. And it just obliterates whatever was done before, because you're calling somebody out of the blue. You're having this conversation about family and occupation or recreation and dreams or whatever it is. And then it's this weird transition to, by the way, I set a goal for myself to help 3 more families in the month of June. Who do you know that's ready to buy or sell? And it's like, is that the only, so everything before that statement was a lie so that you could get to the statement where you could get something from me. Anybody ever felt like that before? Or is it just me when I read those scripts? I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. Like, it's weird. It's awkward. And there's that famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is like how to lose friends and alienate your relatives. It's like, it's a terrible way of building relationship and bringing value to the relationship. It doesn't bring any value. It makes everything else feel like a fraud that just happened beforehand. So that's the second thing we see. The third thing we see, and the third reason you're probably experiencing call reluctance, is the process that you're using has more to do with you than it does with the person that you're calling. And so it's like this weird incongruence. It's like, they're going to know that I'm trying to get something out. It's more about me and what I need than about them and the value that I can bring to them. And so there's this, it's just weird because it feels selfish. It feels like I'm making an ask, but I'm not giving anything. And the fourth thing that happens is that it's just incongruent with who you are. So when you read that script, or when you think about what you're about to do, you go, man, I would never want this done to me. So why am I going to turn around and do it to somebody else? Why would I turn around and do it to somebody else if I wouldn't want it done to me? If I wouldn't want somebody to say this to me, why am I going to turn around and say it to somebody? It's incongruent. And it creates this feeling like there's no way I can pick up the phone and make the call, and in the middle of the call, or, just say, oh, by the way, I set a goal for myself to help 3 more families buy or sell a home this June. Who do you know that's ready to buy or sell? It's strange. I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. Or at the very end of a conversation, oh, by the way, don't forget to send me your roofing referrals. It's like, bro, seriously? We wouldn't want it done to us. We won't do it to somebody else. And then the last reason is that for many of you, what's happened is you're sitting there, especially when it comes to like past clients' sphere of influence, is that a lot of these relationships have gone cold. And so you're feeling like it's weird because I haven't talked to this person in 4 months, had no communication in 4 months, and everybody's telling me I need to call my sphere. And so now I've got to call somebody I haven't had any communication with in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And like set them up to ask about real estate. That's odd. And it's a great way to train your friends and family to ignore your calls. All of these things will train your friends and family to ignore their calls. So the next time they're like, oh, it's Stephanie. I know what she's going to do, that weird, who do you know that's buying or selling thing again. I don't want to deal with that, and send you to voicemail. And that's why you're feeling like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to inconvenience them. It's weird. It's strange. And now I just don't want to make those calls, or the scripts are odd. I don't want to say that. I never want that said to myself. So that's what we see. Does that make sense, guys? If that's making sense, if that's resonating, I'd love to know which one for you has been the one you're like, oh my gosh, that's the one. Is it that you're looking at it going, it's bad scripts that I've been using, they're old school? Is it bad strategies, the referral bombs being dropped in it? Is it that you've been feeling like the process is more about you than them? Like, which is it for you? Or that it's not congruent with who you are? Like, punch it into the chat. I'd love to know which one resonated with you, just to kind of get a sense on who, like which is resonating, because it's also going to help me understand where to spend a little bit more time here in the overcoming of the call reluctance, and then in the actual script tactic that I'm going to give you, kind of where that's making sense. Yeah, Michelle, it's interesting. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of fakes in the industry. And so each one of them, yeah, on some, like at some point, you've probably run into all of them, right? So at some point they're all going to resonate, because if you've been doing this long enough, you've been in sales long enough, you're going to hit most of these bad scripts, bad strategies, all of it makes sense. So here's the thing. How do you then turn around and overcome call reluctance? So there's 6 simple steps that I want to give you. 6 simple steps I want to give you, and then we're going to kind of talk through the intro, or I'm going to show you how you can reach out to your sphere in a completely different way, a way that we teach our clients to do, and it's a total game. Like, it's actually fun when you see it and you start to do it. We have clients tell us all the time, like, it's actually fun to make these calls now. And that's a whole different game than when you're avoiding it and you're like, man, I kind of want to make the calls, because they end up being fun conversations. So here's the first step. Number 1 is you need to change your beliefs about you, about your prospects or clients, depending on who you're calling, and about the process of calling. So what do I mean by that? So changing your beliefs about you. If you've ever said the statement, I'm not good at making calls, I'm not good on the phone, I'm not a caller, I'm more of a face-to-face person, I'm more of a relational person, whatever it is, you've created an identity as somebody who's not good at it, because when in reality, it was never you weren't good at it. It's that the way you were trying to go about it wasn't allowing you to be great at it. But the truth is, if your friends, if your family, if your leads, if you had a strategy that felt authentic and could be fun, could you be great at it? See, the truth is, if you're calling your mom or your dad or your best friend, you never pick up the phone and you're like, man, I'm just not good at the phone. Sorry, mom, I couldn't call. I felt a little weird. I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to. It's the context and the process that makes it all wrong. So you're actually great on the phone in the right setting, with the right tools, with the right strategy, with the right game plan, with the right understanding of what's taking place. You can be great on the phone. So it's not that you're not that person. You absolutely are that person, and can be that person in this context, in this setting, with a better skill set, better training, better scripting, better processes, and a game plan to win on the back end, and make sure that the person you're talking to is winning as well. The second thing you need to change your beliefs around, and this is all, number 1 is about changing your beliefs. The first one you need to change is your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about your prospects and your clients. Let me ask you a question. We always think that we're going to interrupt people or bother people or annoy people. But let's just say, hypothetically, and I don't know your situation, and so some of you, this might actually hit close to home. Let's say you went to the doctor, and actually this happened recently with a client. And I was talking with him on Monday. It's a very similar situation. So let's say you go to the doctor, and the doctor runs blood work. They're like, hey, we need to do some blood work. We need to do some tests. We need to kind of just take a look, see how you're doing. And they take the blood work, and then they never call. And finally you call the doctor, and you're like, what's going on? Like, hey, how did my blood work come back? And like, oh man, been meaning to call you, but I didn't want to inconvenience you, but I've got some bad news. You're pre-diabetic, or you're diabetic, and your cholesterol's through the roof. And we found some cancer markers, but honestly, I just didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to, I don't know. It felt weird. You'd fire your doctor. You would fire your doctor. And so if what you're bringing is valuable, it's not an interruption. It's only an interruption if there's nothing of value that you're bringing to the conversation. Now, if you're my best friend, like, we don't have to have a valuable conversation. All that, should be like, man, I'm just checking on you. How you doing? How's life? Just thinking about you. I'm probably busy. Just got 5 minutes. Just want to say hi. That's like, that in and of itself is the value. But in a business setting, in a business context, in a professional relationship, it's only an inconvenience if there's no perceived value that you're bringing to the conversation. So they want to hear from you if what you're bringing is important and valuable and helpful. Does that make sense? Is that resonating? Because, and why you feel like I don't want to bother people is because you know at the core, you're like, I would be bothered by this. But if you understand that people want to hear from people who can help them or bring value, then that changes everything. And then ultimately, the process of calling, your beliefs about the process of calling, in that the processes you've been using have been wrong, but if you have the right processes, the right scripts, the right, tonality, the right understanding of how to deliver things and how to navigate a conversation, you actually wouldn't be bothered by it. So you've got to change your beliefs around all three of those things. Second thing you need to do, and this is critical, lead with value. Lead with value. So what is something you can offer them as the reason for the call? Now, this changes depending on who you're calling. So it's one thing if you're calling your friends and family, your sphere of influence. It's another thing if you're calling your past clients. It's another thing if you're calling leads that have reached out to you. It's another thing if you're prospecting, you're doing more traditional cold calling, FSBOs, expired circle prospecting, things like that. The value, the lead in has to change. Or the reason if they reached out to you and they're an inbound lead, the reason they reached out will determine some of the things that you can and can't or should or shouldn't do. And we don't have time to get into all of that here today. But the idea is you got to know what is the value that I'm going to bring to this conversation. The second thing you have to do is predetermine the value. Third thing, and this is key, and I'm going to kind of show you this a little bit today, but internally, I write all of our scripts. I love scripting, love scripting, but I don't really call them scripts. I call them scripts in the sense of like, that's what everybody thinks about. I actually call them conversations. And you want to create frameworks for conversations, not scripts that feel robotic, because too many people, they're like, oh my gosh, I read a script and I feel robotic. Well, don't read a script. If you start to think about it as my script isn't a word for word all the time, it's a framework for a conversation with another human being, it changes it a little bit. And you start to go, wait a minute, what's the framework for this conversation? And you'll approach the creation of even your own scripts differently, or you'll understand, why is this script not working for me? Well, the framework is off. And so everything I do in the scripts that I create for the clients in our program, it's all driven by frameworks for conversations and less about word for word. Now, there are some things that you want to be careful with because the wrong words do matter and the right words do matter. And you want to be able to avoid those things and understand. And you'll get to kind of witness a little bit of that as we get into the training I'm going to give you in just a minute here on that. But the problem with scripting is scripts tend to break down because the person never responds like the scripts say they should. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever got like, there's this coach like, download my script template, and you read it and you're like, okay, cool. So I'm going to say this. And then the prospect is going to say, sure, that would be great. And so you ask the question, the prospect's like, I guess so. I don't know. And you're like, crap, do I just press on as if they said, sure, that'd be, because they didn't tell you, sure, that'd be great. They're like, I guess, yeah, whatever, go for it. And now you just feel weird pressing on in the script because they never respond the way the script says they're supposed to respond. And then you just feel weird and like, well, how do I recover from this? And so scripts are problematic. Frameworks change the game because frameworks allow for flexibility. They allow you to adjust. They allow you to navigate the fluidity of conversations in a much more natural, authentic way. Number 4, in overcoming call reluctance, get to the point. Get to the point. If you don't need 10 minutes of 15 minutes of dialogue around their friends, their family. How's the dog? How's the cat? How are your kids? How's your dreams? How's your job? How's your this? Because then the longer that goes on, the stranger the transition becomes. Because they've settled into, this is just a friendly call. This is just they really were just checking in on me. They really were just wanting to see how I was doing. This is okay, cool. I've got a few minutes. Sure. And the other problem is that's one of the reasons you feel like you're going to annoy them is you don't know how to land the plane and get to the point. And so that it just drags on, and then the referral bomb comes, the transition is awkward, and the longer it goes, the more you're sweating it, because in the back of your mind, you're like, oh gosh, where's my opening? Please ask me how the market's doing. Please ask me. You're just begging for them to ask you how the market's doing. Because if they don't, you're like, I got no transition point. Because you don't know how to get to the point. You don't know how to move there quickly and get to the point and be respectful of their time. Again, maybe it's just a couple people who've felt with that, but it's ultimately, it's just an understanding that you got to get there. You got to land the plane. And then another thing is, number 5, you always have to have an ask that is about them. And this is where the trick comes in. It's an ask about them. It's an ask about them, not an ask for you. An ask for you is, don't forget to send me your referrals. Hey, I've got a goal of helping 3 people this month. Who do you know? That's all about you. It has nothing to do with them. Your ask needs to be about them. The question needs to be about what you're giving them. So don't ask for a referral. I know it's like sacrilegious to call somebody and not ask for a referral because it flies in the face of everything you've been trained. There is a way to do it. We're not going to get into that today, but we're just going to talk about your primary ask should never be for a referral, ever. It should be about them, not you. That's how you change the game. And number 6, understand the right next steps and don't overplay your ask. So, too many people, what I mean by this is that too many people are not respecting the next logical step, the next logical ask, and they're going in for the close way too soon. So they're like that desperate dude at a bar who sits down and is like, what's up, baby? I gotta tell you, you're marriage material. And so I've got it all mapped out. I've got a pastor on standby. In fact, I rented the chapel. There's a chapel down the street. And so I've got your wedding dress in the car. Like I've already invited, I kind of cyber stalked you, found your friends and family, and I've invited them down so they could witness us, profess our love for each other, because clearly that's where you're at in the relationship. By the way, my name's, Hank, and what's your, okay, cool. Hi, Stephanie. So what we're going to do from here is I'll pay your tab, because marriage. And then I'm going to take you to the chapel and we're going to just tie the knot because baby, you are the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's overplaying the next step. Like you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. But then so often it's like the script is, so let me ask you, what's your time frame for selling? And it's like, hi, I'm Travis. Let's talk about what's going on first before we ask about my time frame for selling. It's like so I can come out and I can take a look at your house today. I can be there this afternoon, and it's just jumping far too many steps ahead and not understanding how to determine what is the next tangible step that we need to be walking to and moving them down that path of, because not everybody's at the same process, but too many of the scripts treat them like they're all at the same place. So they overplay their ask. So what you want to do is you want to think through, what is the next logical step? What is the next logical ask for this person in this setting, in this scenario? Then that becomes your ask. But it's always about them and how you're helping them. Does that make sense, guys? If that's making sense, drop it into the chat. And I don't know, but it's fear of rejection. Sorry, but that's it. I can appreciate that, and there is a lot of truth to that, but it is not all that it is. And there's a lot of reasons why fear of rejection comes up. And a lot of times it comes up because the pathway that people are walking down would likely lead them to rejection. But just saying, well, I'm going to no longer fear rejection doesn't fix the problem if the strategies are still off. So fear of rejection is important, not saying it's not, and it is a fear. But I've talked to a lot of people that, even believe it or not, it can be a part of it. But once you eliminate the causes of what's really bringing up the resistance, the fear of rejection actually goes away because they no longer feel like what they're about to do will lead to the rejection. So I get it, and you're not wrong necessarily, but it's not the whole story. So just want to make that clear. So let's talk about how this can look. And I want to kind of transition to really how to open up conversations and in a very specific scenario with your sphere of influence. So those sphere of influence calls, because oftentimes this is one of the easiest places to help people start, is with friends and family, because it's like the safest relationships out there, right? Very, very rarely are you going to call your aunt and she's just going to yell at you and tell you to go do things to yourself that are physically impossible and be like, why are you calling me? You're bothering me. Like, it's just not going to happen. So your sphere, it's a really kind of safe place to start with changing some of this process in a way that will, I think, kind of help you start to walk through and see what this could ultimately look like. So I'm going to give you a way of opening up conversations with your sphere. So first things first, I do need to point out something here before we get into this. Number one is, the kind of cautionary note here is this. This is for people. So don't do this to somebody you haven't talked to in like 8 years. Like, oh, I'm going to call on my fraternity brothers and I'm going to drop this. I haven't talked to them in a while, but I'm going to use this on all my frat brothers. Like, don't do that. Instead, you want to make sure that you're going to do this with somebody that you've got some built-in rapport with, because you've been keeping in touch with them. You've had conversations with them. It doesn't have to be every week or every month, but that there's some consistency. There's some expectation that, yeah, we have conversation, we have a relationship, or we're connecting back and forth, commenting on each other's Facebook posts, whatever it is. There's some relationships there. So this is only for that group. Don't do it for anybody that it's like, man, that relationship's gone cold. Instead, focus on reviving the relationship first, then worry about this later on down the road. So otherwise, what ends up happening is you come across like the friend that joined the MLM and then all of a sudden just like reaches out to everybody they know with a business opportunity. Don't be that person. So here's the first thing you're going to do. Like I said before, you're going to predetermine the value drop. So what's going to be the value you're going to bring to the conversations? Okay, I'm going to reach out to my sphere. There's a lot of different things you can use for the sake of this scenario. We're going to say you're reaching out to your sphere of influence that owns a home. So what we're going to lead with in this case is a updated custom market evaluation. So don't call it a CMA. Nobody knows what that is, but just like, hey, I'm going to put together updated custom market evaluations. We'll talk about what that looks like. But that's going to be the value you're going to lead with. So you're like, okay, that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm going to give them. So your ask is going to revolve around the updated custom market evaluation. All right. So that's where this is going to start. Then what you're going to do is you're going to open the call with short, authentic rapport. 2 key words in that: short, authentic rapport. So what can you ask them about that you are genuinely interested in? If you're like, I could care less about Dave's job, don't ask about Dave's job. If you know that Dave recently went with his family and took his family to, a cruise, like a Disney cruise, and you're like genuinely, authentically curious about that cruise, ask about that. Like, hey man, saw you guys went on that cruise. Like, we've been thinking about taking that cruise with the kids. Like, how was it? Was it a good trip? Anything you do again, do differently? Oh man, that's awesome. Now it's short, but it's authentic. So when I say short, it's no more than 2 to 5 minutes, 5 minutes max. But usually about 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you're just going to keep it tight. Like, just genuine rapport. You're going to build some rapport. It's authentic. It's short, but I'm going to transition. Otherwise, the longer it goes, the weirder it's going to start to get. The weirder it's going to start to get. So when you start the transition, you transition professionally and intentionally. So you're having an authentic conversation like, man, that's awesome. So glad you guys got a chance to do that. And so Dave, real quick, I know you weren't expecting my call here today, and I want to be respectful of your time. And actually the reason I'm reaching out is, so it's just a very intentional transition. So it's like, hey man, I know you weren't expecting my call here, and I really do want to be respectful of your time. It's all in the tonality. I'm not being like all of a sudden like we're buddy. And I'm like, hey Dave, so here's the thing. I know you weren't expecting my call right now, and so I really do want to be respectful of your time. But the reason I'm reaching out is like, don't do that. It can be authentic. It could be like, I do this with my parents sometimes. It's like, hey dad, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, look, I know I'm like calling you out of the blue here, and I do actually have to get back to the office, but real quick, I had something I wanted to run by you. And at no point in time is my dad like, well, that's weird, son. Like, it's a natural thing we do if you let it be natural. If you let it be natural. So if that makes sense, if that kind of open and transition makes sense, do me a favor, just type the word like type the phrase makes sense into the chat. I want to make sure you guys are getting this before I move on to the next phase. Does that make sense? How you're going to kind of open, like authentic, short, keep it tight, and then just make a nice, smooth, professional, intentional transition. Want to make sure you guys are tracking. So, and then what we're going to do from there makes sense. Okay, cool. So, makes sense, kind of. Okay. If it's not making sense, type your question in and I'll see what I can do to get to it. Because I do want to make sure that it's making sense. It looks like it's making sense for most of you, but if you have a question, type it in. If I can get to it, I will. So, or if not here, I'll get to it in the comments. So once you've transitioned, the next step is you're going to pre-frame the offer that you're about to make with a why, W-H-Y, like a why, and what I would kind of call a social belonging. So as humans, we all have a need to belong. We all have a need to be part of something, to be not weird, to be not alone. So what we want to give people is the feeling that they're part of something that I'm about to ask them about. And it's also going to make them not feel weird in accepting the help. And I'm going to tell them why I'm reaching out, and I'm going to talk about the social aspect of it. It's going to make them more likely to say yes. I'll show you what this looks like. So I've made the transition. Reason I'm reaching out is, like, as you're probably aware, Dave, the market's been changing, a bit recently. And a lot of my clients have kind of been wondering how that's been impacting the value of their homes. So what it's doing there is it's saying, the reason I'm reaching out is, as you're probably aware, the market's been, changing a bit recently. And a lot of people have been wondering, a lot of my clients have been wondering how that's impacting the value of their home. So it's letting them know that if you've been wondering as well, you're not alone. Other people are too. You're a part of a group. It's good that you're wondering. It's good that you're curious. So it puts them into that position of going, yeah, like, me too, us too. We've kind of been wondering that as well. And yeah, they could go on Zillow or Redfin and get a Zestimate or whatever. And we all know how accurate those things can be. It gives them a range, but it's not really going to give them exactly what they need. That can be something we talk about later, but not right now. But that's the idea. And so here's what you're going to do. Here's where you're transitioning to the ask. So I've kind of said, here's why I'm reaching out, started that why of what I'm about to do, created some social. And then you're going to say, and so I'm actually in the process, because people have been wondering. So I'm actually in the process of putting together some, custom updated evaluations for them. So by telling them that I'm already doing something, by saying that you're already in the process of doing something, it makes what comes next sound less like an imposition. People don't want to feel like a burden to you. So if you just say, hey, I was just thinking of you and wanted to give this to you. Do you want it? They're like, oh, I don't want to put you out. So they're more likely to say no. So by saying, I'm already in the process here of putting together some custom, kind of updated evaluations for those clients that have been kind of wondering what's going on. Now I'm going to make the ask. And as I was doing that, Dave, I thought of you and Mary, and your names just kind of like popped into my head as some people who might find something like this, I guess, valuable. So would you like me to put together one for you? It's literally, it's no trouble at all. Since like I said, I'm already in the process of doing this for some of my other clients. Would you too find something like this valuable? So what I'm doing is I'm making the ask really, really simple to say yes to. I'm already doing it. It's no trouble whatsoever. You guys popped into my mind as I was doing it for other people. It's like I'm in the process. I wanted to reach out. Would you find it valuable? It's super simple, super simple. So the idea is little rapport, short and authentic, clean transition. Keep it lighthearted. Don't change your tonality. Just like, hey man, I know you weren't expecting my call today. And the reason I'm reaching out actually is because, as you're probably aware, Mark has been doing a lot lately, however you want to frame that, it doesn't really matter. And then, which a lot of our clients are wondering what's going on. And so I'm in the process of doing this. It's no skin off my back. It's so easy for me to just put one together for you. You guys popped into my mind. Would you want it? Would you find it valuable? Just try that. Try that. See how different it feels. See how and if they like, no, man, that's like, we're good. Hey, that's not a problem. Just, if you, depending on rapport, depending on a lot of things, you could ask for a light referral here, but we're not going to get into it because there's things you would need to do before, like, I don't want, right. If they say no, you say, that's not a problem. It would have bothered me if I didn't at least reach out and ask, man, hey, we should grab a cup of coffee, grab a beer sometime, whatever it is, drink of choice. What's your schedule like over the next couple of weeks? And then you just move on and just leave it at that. You don't need to ask for anything right now. You can ask later on, you can ask at another time. There's other places to do it, but right now, just focus on bringing value. They know what you do. Now they may say, no, we're good, but actually we have somebody that would, my sister's getting ready to sell. She actually might like something like that. Oh, really? Okay, cool. And now you can, well, what's her name? How would I get a hold of her? And would you mind making that introduction? However you want to do that for you. Now you can, kind of lead into something like that, but you just keep it really light, really simple. All right, guys. So give it a try. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how that goes. And here's the deal, guys. As we wrap up today's training, I do want to offer a special invitation. We've got 12 slots open in the next 72 hours. And what I would like to do is invite anybody on here today to a free strategy session called 60 Minutes to an Extra Six Figures with either me or somebody on my team. Right now, we have 12 slots available in the next 72 hours. And here's the deal, guys. This is an incredibly powerful session, but it is not for everyone. This is for real estate agents who are truly looking to grow your production, or for team leaders who may be having trouble scaling up and getting to that next level with their team, or struggling with your sales team. That's who this is for. So here's the deal. If you're not licensed, we are going to cancel the call. We love you. When you get licensed, reach out. But right now, this is for licensed real estate agents only. Also, if you are like a hobbyist and you're really not ready to go full-time in the business and you're just kind of like dabbling, this isn't for you. We're like, this call, it's a game plan for how to add 2 to 5 closings per month to your business, and how to get like 2 to 3 deals into the pipeline in the next 90 days. Like, we're going to walk you through all of that. The problem is, if you're just a hobbyist, you're not going to get anything out of it. We're going to waste your time. And so, don't book the call if you're just kind of dabbling at real estate. This is really for people who are serious about scale, who are serious about growth, who are serious about leveling up. And the thing is here, guys, on top of that, you must be ready to do whatever it takes. So if you're not willing to make simple changes that are necessary to scale up your business and your income, and you just want to argue, like, don't waste your time. because we know what works. Been doing this for 13 years, guys. I've helped literally thousands of agents scale up rapidly and add 6 figures or more to their income in months, not years. So it's possible you can, even if you've never made your first 6 figures yet, and that's where you want to get, we can get you there very, very fast. And for those of you that maybe you're making $250,000, you're ready to get to, 350, 400, 500,000, we can show you how to get there much faster than you thought possible. And we'd love to chat with you. So if you would like this, it's a complimentary opportunity to speak with me and my team, put a plan together. All you have to do, comment ready below. Somebody on my team will reach out, help you get booked for a call. And maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're not sure if you are ready. Punch ready in below. Somebody on my team, when they reach out to you, you can say, hey, I don't know if I'm ready for this or not. I'd like to talk to somebody and see if this is really right for me. And then they'll be honest with you and they'll say, yeah, like, let's get you scheduled. Or they'll be honest and say, no, you're like, not yet. We're here to support. We're here to help. And we want to make sure that you're winning. So guys, type a ready into the chat. If you would like to speak with me or somebody on my team, get you taken care of, but let's get you in the next 90 days. We can show you how to add 2 to 3 deals into your pipeline, closed or under contract in just 90 days. Anybody can do it. I don't care where you're starting from. And if you're starting from not scratch, holy crap, we can do that really fast. And if you're ready to start to get to the point where you're adding 2 to 5 deals or more every single month with consistency and predictability, it's a great opportunity. We want to help you. We want to support you. There's a window in this business to really capitalize on the market right now. Super huge opportunity to set yourself up to thrive in this market. We want to help you do that. So guys, if you found this valuable, let me know. Drop a yes into the chat. Say, let me know what your big takeaway was, whatever it was. It's been an honor to be with you. We will be back next Thursday with a whole new training where we'll deep dive on another topic here for you. Next Thursday, it's June already. Holy crap, I can't believe it. But in the meantime, go have a blessed and wonderful Memorial weekend, you guys, and we will see you on the calls. Take care, everybody.